Going on YouTube, Cloverbuzz here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be talking about 10 niche Pokemon that have gotten better in Regulation G, right? So with all the new restricteds running around, stuff like Kyogre, Groudon, Terrapagos, the Calyrexes, right? You're going to need some niche options to help you against those specific Pokemon and those specific archetypes, right? And, typically when you're building these Pokemon that we're listing, they're going to be like your 5th or 6th slot on your team. After you've built your core, after you've picked a good amount of support around your restricted, you're gonna need 1 or 2 Pokemon that can help you deal with matchup specific things. Okay, so the way we found these mons is it's coming down to either good typing or good niche support moves, something like Wide Guard, for example, because there's so much spread move running around, and also the fact that they have been missing something that can take them to the top, something that propels them not even just to the top, that just takes them from not good to all of a sudden viable, or was already good somewhat, but now it's like very good. Okay, so something like a strong weather setter like Kyogre and Groudon can make something really good now. For example, Walking Wake, who is also on this list, or a terrain setter like Miraidon all of a sudden now brings out Electric Terrain. So who are the Electric Terrain users now? So the Iron Paradox Pokemon, right? So now suddenly they might get some good users. And we have a list of a few of them, okay? But right now I just picked 10, but technically there's a little bit more. And after I've listed the 10, I'm going to list about 6 more that I think are a little bit unproven, but can have a chance to make an impact within the meta. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our list. All right, we're going to start things off with these 2 options. I'm going to talk about Iron Valiant and Mien. These are 2 Pokemon that you would have never seen prior to Regulation G, but all of a sudden now have good viability, right? Why? Because first of all, both of them, they have access to Wide Guard, right? We just mentioned this in the intro, right? If you have access to Wide Guard, you kind of pin, these slots, the Calyrexes, the Groudons, the Kyogres. They can't really click Water Spout or Precipice Blades in front of your face, right? Because you're forced to click Wide Guard, to stop those attacks and now make them go for, less optimal single target moves. Now, because of that, you as the Kyogre player or Groudon player can read into that and instead go for that single target move, which may end up winning the game, and read that Wide Guard, because the turn you do go for Wide Guard, you're not doing any damage. So you can read into that. So it's almost like a mind games kind of thing, but at the very least, Wide Guard still gives you a nice, good support tool against these things, right? But in addition to that, Mien gets access to Fake Out, right? A fast Fake Out user with 105 speed is actually very, very good. So you're faster than Rillaboom, you're faster than Incineroar, so your Fake Out's gonna go first, and you yourself, you can't get faked out either because you have Inner Focus over here, right? And not only that, you also get access to Close Combat, which can pretty much one-shot these Incineroars, right? And that Intimidate is not gonna matter for you, right? The Iron Valiant, on the other hand, also gets access to Close Combat, so you also have that ability as well. However, you don't get Inner Focus. You do get Quark Drive, right? So you are susceptible to Intimidate in that sense, right? But at the very least, again, look at this attacks at 130. That's pretty good. You can still put a Clear Amulet on this thing, okay? So that still can help you. And then if not, this is still going to get a Sash. Even here, this is still going to get a Focus Sash either way. So you have to commit your Focus Sash to both of these mods because they're not like super bulky in that regard, right? This actually gets access to Spirit Break, which is a very, very good move. Think about Grimmsnarl, right? Spirit Break, again, reducing special attack damage, stuff like Flutter Mane, Raging Bolt, Miraidon as another example, Kyogre. These are all Pokemon that don't, Calyrex, these are all Pokemon that don't want to be taking, special attack reductions, right? So if you can land one of these on them, then they're just not going to be doing that much damage. You stop their steamroll potential, which is important in a restricted format. You can't let things, click Astral Barrage, go to +2, and then you just lose from there, right? You can't stop that anymore. So being able to neutralize that a little bit with something like Spirit Break is important, right? So Mien also gets another cool move, okay? It also gets access to Coaching, and I've seen this already with something like, either Calyrex Ice Rider, or I've also seen this with something like Groudon, right? So Coaching is actually a really cool move, right? You get a boost in your attack and defense by +1. So now all of a sudden Groudon and Calyrex, they can manually inherently get this. So you boost your Calyrex. Now it starts picking up Glacial Lance KOs, and you get to add that on top of your as one, Moxie boost, right? So that's very, very detrimental. And then this is going to help you in the mirror, but not only the mirror, this is also going to help you against the Shadow Calyrex, right? If you are the Cali Ice player, same thing for Groudon, right? You can't let Kyogre click Water Spout and that kind of thing. So, you have access to Wide Guard, and you can boost your Groudon by going for these coaching boosts. So that's actually really, really nice. And then from here, Iron Valiant, you also have some other cool support moves. You also get something like Icy Wind over here that can give you speed control, right? And then if I'm not mistaken, this also gets access to Trick Room, which is pretty good. So you have a couple of forms of speed control on the Iron Valiant. Mien can't give you that in that sense, but at the very least, hey, like Trick Room is a play that you can consider, right? And then at the same time, like we said, Quark Drive is now ability that actually has some decent use, because now you have access to Miraidon. So you could definitely put Miraidon here with Iron Valiant, right? And get this Quark Drive stuff going, right? And then again, this is pretty good against, stuff like Instant or even the special attackers. And then you can just outspeed a lot of these threats, right? Like 116 speed is actually pretty good. So if you go like, a jolly natured route, you can outspeed things, okay? Or you can go for the attack boost if you decide to go for, the adamant nature kind of idea with the focus sasher. So lots of decent play here coming from Iron Valiant. Same thing with Mien. We actually put Mien on our Calyrex Shadow Rider team. I think a lot of those Calyrex Shadow Rider teams are going to have a Wide Guard user like a Mien, for example. So because it's just too good not to have, and it's important, right, for the mirror matchup, okay? So that's that for those two. So let's keep moving on with this list. All right, next up is Comfey over here. So basically, Comfey is going to be always paired with Terapagos these days, right? Because again, this is how it works. Terapagos is going to be going for these Calm Mind setups, and it's going to be doing huge damage with Terra Star form, right? So then how do you even set up the Calm Minds? You're going to have double fake out options with Incineroar and Rillaboom. We already know what this is, right? We've seen this in the tours. Double fake out allows you to really easily set up the Calm Minds, and then from there start sweeping with Terra Star forms, right? And then remember, the ability for Terapagos is that when you Terra it, it's going to take not very effective damage when it's at full HP. So all you have to do is really keep this thing at full health, and you're not taking any damage. Well, who's going to help you do that? Well, first of all, you've got something like Leftovers here along with Protect, right? Covert Cloak is also pretty good, right? Just because, if you don't want to get snarled and get that reduction, then Covert Cloak helps a lot. But then who's going to keep you to full health? Comfey, right? With Floral Healing, +3 priority is broken, okay? 50% of its max HP. So that's really going to help its healthy. So all you're going to have to do is just spam Floral Healing, spam Calm Minds, right? Keep this thing at full health, and then eventually they can't break you anymore, and then you just click Terra Star form, right? So, because of the availability of Terapagos, all of a sudden, Comfey's usage or Comfey's skill set is now appreciated and needed, right? Previously, we saw something like this with Moltres or like some other niche Pokemon, but now you can really, really support a restricted with something like Comfey. So, it's very matchup specific. It's very archetype based, with Comfey and Terapagos. I don't really see it used outside of this, but at the very least, hey man, this thing is playable, or at least more playable now than it was before. All right, next I want to look at is actually Iron Jugulis and the Clover favorite, Galarian Moltres. So what's up with these two? So first of all, they have the dark typing, which is good against the Calyrex stuff, both of them, right? So whether it be Ice Rider or Shadow Rider, but more specifically the Shadow Rider stuff, because, this one gets Snarl, which is very detrimental against Calyrex, and you're 4 times weak to it, right? So they don't want to be taking that. And then at the same time, you get some speed control with Tailwind on your side, and then Air Slash is going to be good against stuff like Rillaboom, stuff like Amoonguss, the Ogerpons if they don't Terra. So Iron Jugulis has some decent niche in this format, and then with Booster Energy, you can actually outspeed the Calyrex easily, and then be able to pressure them with that Snarl. So that's pretty good. Then over here, the Galarian Moltres, you don't get access to, something like Snarl. Actually, you do. Believe it or not, you do. You might even consider a different set here, but, again, Fiery Wrath, good spread move damage against the Calyrex Indeedee stuff, forcing them to maybe one go Terra Fairy. And both of these are also pretty good into Lunala, which is running around and winning all kinds of Regulation G tournaments. So if you could Snarl the Lunala, that would be also very, very good. Pressure it also with Fiery Wrath. And then Moltres also gets, if we just put the Assault Fist on this thing, right? Moltres can actually run this kind of set with Snarl as well. And then, of course, Air Slash. So you can also be a Snarl user in itself. right? And then this way you can actually even U-turn, right? So you can reposition out. I've seen this set back in Sword and Shield, right? I thought it was a pretty cool set, and I think it works just as good this time around too. But base 125 special defense is going to be good. You know, these Calyrexes, these Lunalas, they're not going to be able to touch you all that much, right? So you can definitely consider Assault Vest Moltres this time around. But if you're not, you also get access to Tailwind yourself, so you can do that too. This wasn't used as much in, you know, the previous other regulation formats. Usually it's just, you know, Nasty Plot and then Protect, right, with Fiery Wrath and Air Slash. But this time around, I think you can get some good viability out of Assault Vest Galarian Moltres. And then again, because these two are flying types, Groudon can't click its ground move, so it's gonna have to go for stuff like, you know, Heat Crash or a Rock Slide if it has it, you know, which is good against a flying type. But, you know, that's not Groudon's signature move. It's not a stab move, so it's not going to be able to knock you out per se. So you've got some good, you know, sustainability in front of it, at least a little bit. But, you know, the main use for these two is for that Calyrex Shadow matchup. So, you know, you can always switch it in and then, you know, just sit in front of the Astral Barrage and just don't really care. And then just pressure right back with stuff like Snarl. So give any of these a try, you know, and Iron Jugulis, you know, because of Quark Drive, you can Terra this thing and then all of a sudden get the boost from the Electric Terrain from a Miraidon, for example. But, you know, even if you don't Terra it, you still have your booster energy, so you can always just equip it with that. But definitely consider it this time around. I think it's much better because there's so much Calyrex Shadow Rider running around. Iron Bundle is next on our list and is being played a lot more. Why? Because guess who's activating its Quark Drive? You've got the restricted legendary Miraidon running around now, right? So now Electric Terrain locked and loaded, which means Iron Bundle supporters rejoice. You now have, you now have what you wanted, right? Which means now we don't have to run booster energy on the bundle because we have Miraidon giving us the terrain. Now we can put something like a Focus Sash over here, okay, which is really, really good. So now we can get the speed advantage. We can get a special attack boost here. But either way, Iron Bundle looking pretty good now next to Miraidon. And then you just add stuff like Incineroar here, okay? Or even something like, you know, Ogerpon Heart Flame. And now you've got this Fire Water Grass Core going for you. And then you can just add something like Farigiraf here, you know, to deny priority moves, you know, give yourself Trick Room. And now all of a sudden, Iron Bundle looks pretty good because now, look, you've got Freeze Drive, which is really good against the other dragons. You have Icy Wind, like I said, for that speed control. Really, really good against the Tailwind stuff. And then that's going to let stuff like Miraidon and Ogerpon outspeed things. And then at the same time, you know, Urshifu is running around like crazy. Okay, again, Freeze Drive is just gonna do so much into it. Okay, and you have a Sash. The Sash is important because now, you know, you can take one big attack and get off that second Icy Wind, which is, you know, all, you know, Miraidon or even Ogerpon really need to be able to outspeed certain threats and then just go for the KO. Like, Miraidon is enabling the Iron Bundle. Without Miraidon, Iron Bundle stocks go down, but with it, Iron Bundle stocks now go up. And again, you know, Incineroar doesn't want to mess with Iron Bundle either. You could just Hydro Pump it, but of course, all you have to do is make sure you connect, okay? And with the fact that, you know, there's still so much Ogerpon, Wellspring running around, Freeze Dry still also looking very, very good in that sense, right? So Iron Bundle, very, very good usage, right? So I do expect this core of Miraidon and Iron Bundle to, you know, still do relatively well, at least in the early get-goes of Regulation G. So use it. Next up, Ting-Lu now gets even better in Regulation G, and it was already rising in usage, you know, towards the later parts of Regulation F because of its typing and some of its movesets that it can do. So first of all, it's a ground type, which means you're really good into Raging Bolt. You can't click an electric move there, and it's forced to go for, you know, a dragon move, and then you can kind of pretty much wall that because with the Assault Vest and Vessel of Ruin, these attacks are just not going to do nothing in front of the Ting-Lu, are not going to do anything, I should say, right? And then you have something like Heavy Slam, which can pressure something like a Flutter Mane, and now that can also pressure something like a Calyrex, right? And in Trick Room, you outspeed the Calyrex, so you can always click Heavy Slam into that, or click Payback, for example, and they're forced to Terra, right? So, you know, if they commit to the Terra, that's good for you in some ways, if you can bait it out. But now, all of a sudden, now, again, consider the Dark typing. Now, again, you sit in front of the Calyrex. And what does the Calyrex do? Nothing, right? Now, it is forced to click a fairy move, like something like Draining Kiss, for example, or even Dazzling Gleam, but that's not going to do a lot of damage when you have an Assault Vest, right? That's a non-stab move. So you've got that going for you. And then, you know, if you don't want Payback, you can always do something like either Throat Chop, or you can go for the big chip damage move in Runation, right? Just make sure you hit of course, right? So you have that going for you. And then, like we said, Snarl is really, really good at pressuring a lot of those special attackers. And then at the same time, you have Stomping Tantrum for some of the fire types running around. Okay, so you have that going for you. And then if you pair this thing with Zamazenta, right? Zamazenta has gotten better in itself in this format, right? It wasn't necessarily on the list because it's a restricted. I'm talking about niche options here. But look at this core, right? If you had Zamazenta, right, just going for these iron defense body presses stuff, right? Okay, so you're boosting your defense, and now you've got Ting-Lu here, you know, making sure that you reduce special attack damage. Zamazenta, by the way, can also go for Howl, but I don't think that's needed here. Okay, we'll do a Howl team another day, but look at this. Now you add something like Incineroar, Amoonguss, and then, of course, the ever so popular, the Terra Poison Porygon 2, right? So how exactly are you going to break this? This team looks annoying. Okay, if I had to build a Zamazenta team and be annoying, this is exactly how I do this. And then this last slot here, this is your filler slot. It could be whatever you want. But Ting-Lu, you know, basically now looks really good in front of Calyrex and, you know, the Indeedee stuff. So you can really stop it in its tracks this way. And, of course, the Raging Bolt shenanigans, right? So, yeah, consider Ting-Lu with this defensive core. It does great work for it. We talked about this in our announcement video, but Walking Wake now all of a sudden seems really good and has gotten better because now Groudon is available, right? So previously you've had to run stuff like Torkoal and Fluttermane, right, along with Walking Wake to be able to really utilize it. And our team was good, right, with one of our last February regulation F teams. But now all of a sudden you don't need Torkoal anymore. Now you've got Groudon, right? And now all of a sudden Walking Wake gives you good matchups into something like Kyogre as well, right? Because water dragon typing, you 4 times resist, quad resist, as they say, the Kyogre water type attack. So you just sit in front of it and you can deal big damage. You know, stuff like Hydro Steam in the rain can chip it quite a bit, okay? And then after that, you can go for something like Flamethrower in the sun, and then you have your stab move of Draco Meteor with Protect. And then, you know, typically this is a Life Orb set with something like Walking Wave, right? So, you know, looking really good into stuff like Incineroar, which is even more common now than ever, right? You can Flamethrower the Amoonguss in the sun. It's going to hurt a lot, especially when you have Terra Fire. That's going to one-shot, you know, a few of them, right? All things considered. And then after this, then you just support, right? Then you could just add stuff like, you know, Rillaboom over here, okay? And then you can even add your own Incineroar over here. So now you've got your Fire, Water, Grass core, and now you're set, right? You can just build a team with this 5, and you're good. And then you can add something like Chenpao here just to make Groudon and Rillaboom do more damage, okay? You could add another support mon over here, like Farigiraf, for example. So this way you can deny Trick Room stuff, deny other priority attacks. So lots of different ways you can build around Groudon, which we'll get to in another video in terms of our team building aspect. But at the very least, Walking Wake gives you a new idea for a Fire, Water, Grass core on a Groudon kind of team. We already know what Incineroar can do in the sun. That hasn't, you know, changed, you know, for a few generations now, right? But now all of a sudden you have Walking Wake here, and now you've got Intimidate support with Incineroar, so now it's pretty bulky. And now, you know, with the sun out coming from Groudon, you can pressure a lot of these options. And again, it's a good thing to have in the Kyogre matchup. All right, to show you our next option here, what I'm going to do is bring back our Calyrex Ice Rider core from the previous video, one of our 4 pastes that we've given out. And it looks like something like this, right? We have Calyrex, Instant Amoonguss for our defensive backbone, secondary Trick Room in the Porygon, right? So I've got the core of the team, right? So now I all of a sudden need 2 more slots to help me against other specific matchup things, right? So I can add something like Fluttermane over here, which is going to be good against, you know, other dark types, for example. You know, just fairy damage in general is going to be good against other dragons, right? So that's nice. Okay, I could even consider something like Raging Bolt. Where's that? Raging Bolt right here, right? So Raging Bolt also looking pretty good against stuff like Kyogre, for example. You know, with an Assault Vest over here, I've got pretty good, you know, stuff into Snarl, you know, with to neuter special attack damage. And then, like I said, the Thunderclap is really good, you know, against the Ogre stuff, and even the Urshifu, right? So that's pretty nice. But then how do I round out the last slot here? So I could use a Wide Guard user, and I still need a water type, right? I've got a fire type, I've got a grass type. I could use a water type with Wide Guard, right? There's a few options here that I can put in this last slot here, right? I could do the Neil Special. Don't tell him I said this. I could do the Neil Special and do Swampert, okay? That we'll talk about maybe a little bit later. Or I could do something like this and, you know, settle for the Araquanid, right? Which is really good, right? Because now, look at this. Again, liquidation, but really what the selling point here is the Wide Guard. And not only that, it's also viable in Trick Room, right? Because look, I'm faster than the other Calyrex, right? So I can outspeed it that way, and then I can, you know, click the liquidation move, you know, and deal a bunch of chip damage, right? And Araquanid is also pretty good against Kyogre as well, again, because, you know, the rain just makes me do more damage, right? And then, like I said, I get to pin the Kyogre's water spout because I have Wide Guard as well as its Origin Pulse. And then, you know, this is also pretty good against Incineroar, which, you know, things want to bring against Calyrex. You know, of course, now I have Clear Amulet, so that's not going to be relevant. But you see how it fulfills this niche role on this team, right? It's another Trick Room physical option that gives me access to Wide Guard that can outspeed the Mirror, right? Because in Trick Room, I'm slower, aka faster. So, you know, you got a lot of things going for it, right? And then at the same time, you know, Calyrex being weak to fire type attacks, you can swap in the Araquanid, right? Because Water Bubble means fire type attacks are halved, right? And I can't be burnt anyway. So, you know, it's a nice little defensive pivot here. So I like this a lot. And, you know, this is what we're talking about, right? You choose your restricted, you support it, you know, with your defensive options or things that do well with it, right? And then, you know, that's where we had Incinemungus here. Give me another Trick Room setter, something like Porygon 2. So there's the core. Now I need 2 flex slots here to round out matchup specific things, right? And Araquanid does that here. So, you know, again, makes the list here. So definitely consider Araquanid. You know, Wide Guard along with strong liquidation damage is really good. Pelipper makes the list here. So, you know, Pelipper was already pretty good, you know, coming in, because Pelipper gave you rain control, it gave you speed control with, you know, tailwind support, okay? But again, and then also really strong hurricanes. But now you also have access to Weather Ball, right? And Weather Ball gives you something to click in both rain and sun, right? Because now you've got a fire type attack, or now you have another water type attack, because Hydro Pump is Garbo, right? It's not that accurate, but, you know, sometimes you have to click it. So after this, then what's your good move now in Regulation G? Now more so than even the other formats, you get access to Wide Guard here. So again, that's going to help you a lot against, again, like we said, a lot of the spread damage running around. Gives you control against the Groudon teams. Okay, so that's going to be really nice. So what is something that can appreciate Pelipper? How about Steel types, right? Steel types love Pelipper because the rain makes reduced fire damage. I can think of one restricted right now that can definitely benefit off of this. Zacian for sure loves this. Pelipper gives you Tailwind, it gives you Wide Guard here. Zacian's gonna enjoy this. You get to outspeed Calyrex now and even kill it, because, you know, you can pin that Astro Barrage nonsense. And then after this, just give you the Fire, Water, Grass boys, right? Give you Incineroar, give you Rillaboom. Okay, then you already have this, right? So then now all of a sudden you can add Raging Bolt. Okay, Raging Bolt looks really good here, and you have the double Fake Out boys, so now you can just do the Calm Mind stuff. Okay, so that's going to be really good for you. And then this last slot, it could be anything really, but I'm just showing you the core of this team, right? This is actually already done in a Regulation G tournament earlier. It actually won, right? And I believe the last slot was, in fact, the Urshifu Rapid Strike with the Choice Scarf here. So this is actually really, really cool. I think it was Chris VGC that did this. Yes, I think it was him. So, you know, again, like, look how Pelipper fits in onto a team like this, right? Because again, not only do you have the Wide Guard, but now you have speed control with Tailwind, allowing Zacian, Raging Bolt, and Urshifu to outspeed a lot of their threats here, okay? And then Rillaboom and Incineroar, that's your defensive backbone. You know, double Fake Out pressure that can allow you to set up these Calm Minds, or even something like this with either Substitute or even Swords Dance Zacian. I think Swords Dance has the lead over Substitute in terms of, like, you know, usage, because the way Intrepid Sword was nerfed, you know, you can't really just repivot out your Zacian after it gets intimidated. Now, you only get a one deal kind of thing with Intrepid Sword. So this is where maybe Swords Dance is the little bit more preferred move, but right, this is why you have double Fake Out boys. But again, back to the point, Pelipper fits on this team, right? Because Groudon pressures the Zacian and the Incineroar and the Raging Bolt, right? But if we can take away Groudon's Sun, that's going to give us a little bit of an advantage, at least, because now we set the rain. All of a sudden, Urshifu pressures the Groudon right back. Rillaboom pressures the Groudon, especially, you know, with the grass moves, because remember, Groudon's a ground type, not a fire type. But definitely on a team like this, overall, I do expect Pelipper to continue to be played. You know, even if it's not with Zacian, the fact that it gives you good weather control against, you know, stuff like Groudon is important. Okay, now we did talk about the 10 that I wanted to talk about, but I think there's actually a few more that are worth noting that may be a little bit unproven right now, but could do something if they're used more, right? And I want to start here with Garganacl. So this is the thing that wasn't really used up after Regulation C. Up until that point, you know, Regulation A, B, and C, Garganacl was actually really, really good. But once you started including all the Paradox stuff, Garganacl pretty much fell off, right? But now, hold up. Now, all of a sudden, maybe it might get a little bit of usage again, right? Because look, again, the bulk is actually really impressive, right? Leftovers protect. Of course, it's going to be standard recovery. You get access to that wide guard skill that we talked about, right? And then at the same time, Salt Cure is annoying. It's dealing annoying chip damage. Okay, and then you have Recover, and then, of course, you have the Alternating Protect. So I think Garganacl could really do something this time around, and it has. Actually, somebody already got 4 and 2 with it in second place as a result, right? I think I want to spotlight that team for a second, and it was this, right, from Mr. Meta Knight over here. This is a Regulation G Strength Box Sunday tournament, right? Meta Knight over here, 4-2 coming in second place, all right? And he was running that Garganacl, right? And he wasn't the only one using this. There was a few other tours where Garganacl was actually in top cut. So I think, you know, in due time, maybe this thing could be good again. And then also look at that speed, 35. So in Trick Room, Garganacl outspeeds the Calyrex. So, and Purifying Salt, you can't be status. So Amoonguss, irrelevant, right? You know, if you want to do stuff in Trick Room. So I think Garganacl, it's actually pretty nice right now. So, you know, definitely consider that as an option. Iron Hands, okay. So up until Regulation G, Iron Hands, top 3 usage, you know, for like a good year already, right? But then, you know, it did fall off a little bit. But, you know, think about it. Iron Hands was top 3 usage without an ability, right? Because we were playing this thing without even using Quark Drive. Now, all of a sudden, you know, you take a formerly top 3 used mod and now you introduce Quark Drive, you know, because of Miraidon, and now you can actually get this attack boost, right? Which is insane because think about how much damage Iron Hands was doing already. Now you add an attack boost, right? Because of Quark Drive. That is the last thing we need. And then, of course, Wild Charge in terrain, you know, with this attack boost is just going to be doing so much damage. Now, that being said, I do think Incineroar being as relevant as it is, you know, puts this thing a little bit out of commission. You're probably just forced to do this with the Clear Amulet, right? Groudon is going to be a thing. So Wild Charge, you know, not looking so good there. So you might have to think of something else. But you can always Drain Punch the Incin with the Clear Amulet this way. So that gives you some use in that regard, okay? Now, you know, you do have to watch out for the Calyrex stuff, especially Expanding Force, you know, from it, as well as, you know, the Kyogre stuff. But at least now we can have an Iron Hands with an ability. So we'll wait and see if this is going to be used a little bit more with the Miraidon. I don't know. Thundurus is also something that's interesting as another alternative to the Tornadus, right? So what does Thundurus do? So now all of a sudden, Wild Bolt Storms are accurate, right? 100% accurate because you have Rain, thanks to Kyogre. Now you also have Eerie Impulse for the Calyrex, right? So you can basically take that thing and make it -2. Tornadus can't do that. And then at the same time, you do get access to Taunt, which Tornadus does give you access to, along with Rain Dance. So you can change the weather manually in that sense, right, against the Groudon per se. And then, of course, Speed Control with Thunder Wave is really, really nice. You know, the Paralysis Hacks is going to give you some interesting plays, whether it be, you know, in the beginning, middle, or end game. So you have that going for you. But then at the same time, I saw this. Well, you also get access to Electro Web, but I don't remember that other move it got. That was actually really, really nice. It was somewhere here, but it escapes me. Taunt, or was it just Taunt and Rain Dance, right? Oh, Electric Terrain. Well, yeah, I guess Electric Terrain also, again, has its due diligence, but you can't really help you out there, right? So, Scary Face, okay, cool. But anyway, you get the idea with Thundurus. I want to wait and see where this goes with something like Kyogre, right? So, you know, a little unproven right now, but could be good. Whimsicott, the fake tier stuff was something that was used a lot with Calyrex Shadow Rider. People are starting to pick up on that and use it. I have seen some Whimsicott in some top cut results. I'm waiting to see if that is going to be the case, because I can totally see stuff like this with Whimsicott, Calyrex Shadow Rider, and Chi-Yu doing a ton of damage, okay? So, you know, if that's the case, look out. And, you know, this thing also gets Encore and Taunt, right? It also gets Cotton Spore, right? So you can go the reverse route. So lots of good support moves from Whimsicott, and of course Comfey Cloak is going to be a good item on it, right? Hitmontop, kind of like Mien Shao. You know, you still get Fake Out, Close Combat, and Wide Guard, and coaching just like Mien Shao. Okay, but the difference now that you don't get on Mien Shao is you get access to Intimidate. So if you need a non-fire Intimidate bond that can give you stuff that Mien Shao gives you, then Intimidate, you know, just like Incineroar, then Hitmontop may be your niche mon, right? But I don't expect this to get that much usage. Maybe someone who really likes Hitmontop will try and fit it on their team, and it's better now than it was in Regulation F, that's for sure, right? Toxapex's another one. So if you want to play those annoying slow games, now all of a sudden, you know, Toxapex with Wide Guard, Infestation, Toxic, and Baneful Bunker, this annoying set, okay, this devil set, all of a sudden has a good usage, right? I have seen a couple Toxapex, but I'm not sold on it just yet, okay? It's really annoying to get rid of, right? Look at this bulk, but it is another option that people are willing to explore as of this moment, right? And like I also said, you know, you have seen Neil use Swampert in the past, right? Because it did get access to Wide Guard. It's super bulky too, like 100 HP, 90 defense, 90 speed. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But I do expect maybe someone like Neil to try out Swampert. So we'll see if he does actually do it. But again, these are just some of the support options that I thought could be good later on. Haven't really made the cut just yet. But yeah, definitely Garganical, I think it could be moved back onto my list there and give us 11, right? But anyway, that's what I think, you know, in terms of our niche mons right now in the early goings of Regulation G that could be even better, or actually are already even better than they were in previous formats. So let me know what you think. Let me know if I missed anything. If you think there is another mon that belongs on this list that I may have missed. So, you know, feel free to comment and let me know. And also, if you need help building a Regulation G team, again, check out our tier sub channel. Check out our tier sub where again, you can sub to the channel with tier 3 and then sign up for coaching that way. Team building session is tier 3, so you get a one-on-one Discord call with me and we can plan and build the team from scratch. You know, hash out all the EVs, okay, just like what we do in our team building videos. We give you that, and then hopefully we can get you that team that you need for whether you're going to a regional like Indiana or NAIC, for example, or something else, mid-season challenge, premier challenge. We've got you covered. Sign up for coaching on the channel. If you look in the video description below, there is the link to join the channel, as well as in the pinned comment, there is a link for the same thing to join the channel for free coaching. All right, so that's going to do it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.